to monitor cases that come in and report it to us on a daily basis. We have thankfully low numbers in terms of the population that has been on campus, but we do, with the break here in January, we did see a number of cases from both student, staff, and faculty that were came in contact through their households. So we have a number of people in various stages of quarantine getting into this semester. But the safeguards that we put in place last spring are all still here and enforced. And as I think everybody's seen, because we're all watching the same news reports, the fact that everybody can continue to monitor those safety measures with the mask, with the social distancing, with the QR code check-ins is really what's helping keep our population as safe as we've been able to do throughout this. It's been very much appreciated for the cooperative effort, and a huge shout out to the folks, especially from Middle Street, who have still been managing to do a lot of the face-to-face work over the last couple of semesters and do so safely to get their students to the other side of these, especially in the clinical classes. So thanks to Kathy and Carol and Sandra and everybody over there that's been plowing away, still getting it done. It's been noticed and very much valued. So shout out to all of you. We do have a couple of updates, really significant updates to provide, and very hopeful and optimistic that here on January 28th, we're heading into what's going to be a significant next phase of this pandemic for us. First, on the very easy testing front, the testing partnership that we've had through the university, which over 300 of you have availed yourself of since we started in September, is still running. They've amended, as of this week, they've amended the hours of access that we can do it, which opens it up to a much larger time span. We're going to be able to go from Monday through Friday between the hours of 9 to 5. But I am flagging it that statewide, they've been experiencing some hiccups in the system that have caused for both delays in the quick turnaround that we were seeing on the results from those tests, and B, as some folks have experienced with the return of the university population, there's been a delay for some people that show up to get the test. It's not just a quick 10 minutes in and out anymore. It might be a little bit longer, towards a half hour, but bear with us, and we expect that's going to taper off shortly. But on that front, we have a very significant development that's underway, and it actually started yesterday. And I want to thank the folks in facilities and public safety and administration for helping us put this piece of it together. Working with the town of Bedford, we're now going to be running at least a 6-week temporary testing site in our Bedford cafeteria, free to the college and free for our people to access. The hours of operation I just received this morning, so I'm going to be sending out a college-wide announcement with that. It's being run by the Bedford Fire Department, but moving forward, Kathy and Carolyn and all of their teammates have been working very closely with us since before Christmas. We've got it queued up so that our student nurses are going to be able to be conducting some of these tests moving forward for us, working hand in glove with the Bedford Fire Department. So it's a really exciting learning opportunity. And quite frankly, to be honest, I am thrilled that at this point in our nation's history that our students are going to be playing such a critical role in helping us get out the other side of this. So kudos to everybody over there that's going to be stepping into that role. We're also, we'll be doing, there'll be registration functions that'll be taken as part of that, and the testing is happening in the far end of the cafeteria. That portion leads me to what I hope is really the most exciting and optimistic piece of this whole pandemic, is that we are working with several communities on vaccination plans and making vaccinations available to our population moving forward. I know a lot of you that have been following the news see that essentially higher ed falls into a phase 4, which might not be landing until April for widespread distribution. But we, again, working with the folks in the health careers, have been able to queue it up so that our students and our faculty are going to be helping in some of these communities administering these vaccinations. Because of this partnership, we've been able to get quite a number of our faculty from nursing and dental hygiene vaccinated with their first dose already. So big round of applause for those people who've already rolled up their sleeves on that first round. We have been trying to get weekly access to small amounts of the vaccination, but mirroring what you've seen from news reports across the country, the distribution of the vaccines has been a little bumpy in some places. So, for example, the town of Bedford, which was supposed to be getting 1,000 doses a week, was only getting 100. So they've had to curtail their numbers. We did plan on doing a vaccination site on our Bedford campus outdoors, but because of the slow rollout of the numbers, we've kind of morphed that into a smaller version of this testing, which hopefully at some point here coming in February and March, we'll be able to switch to a vaccination distribution. So that's really exciting. And again, to have our students and faculty be part of that historic rollout is quite frankly the most exciting thing I've seen during this whole pandemic. So fingers crossed, we'll have more to report almost on a daily basis. You're going to start seeing a flurry of college-wide emails that'll be landing with a lot of these updates and information to keep you filled in. But as this rolls into the spring, there is also going to be an opportunity for folks who from different programs who would be interested in potentially volunteering at the registration tables and helping facilitate the testing portions that are going to go on in the other half of the cafeteria. So I'll be sure to share those announcements as those opportunities do become available. And fingers crossed here, we'll be on a fast track during the month of February and certainly into March to try to get ahead of this wave and get as many people that want the vaccinations vaccinated heading into the April surge that's sure to come. So thanks again, everybody, for having communicated with us. We could ask you to continue to send your emails and questions and cases to the emergency management mailbox. That's where we triage these incidents, but your open and very effective communication throughout this has made a really significant difference for helping us contend with this. So thanks to all.
Thanks, Pat. We'll now kick it over to Colleen Cox to talk about the Cowan Center update and commencement.
Thanks, Beth. Good afternoon, everyone. The Cowan Center floor lowering ADA project for the first and second and third floor at the Cowan Center is underway. This project is funded by approximately $2.2 million from DCAM. The team from Middlesex has been meeting with the engineers and architects every week since last spring, and construction is due to start February 15th with a completion date of May 31st. Every area that is part of the project has been emptied, furniture and technology tagged and packed, moved to alternative locations for staff access or stored for the duration of the project. A special thank you to all the staff impacted for your assistance and cooperation with packing and purging during this process. Thank you to the facilities and IT for all they have done and continue to do with this project. The Cowan Center fourth floor has been set up as a temporary offices for staff needing to access occasional workspace on campus during the spring semester, including financial aid, student accounts, and student affairs. I guess this project is the upside of COVID and remote work, that the college is able to take on such a large-scale project during the academic year. It will be a great improvement to the Cowan Center. So if anybody has any questions about that. Also, for commencement 2021, due to COVID and the uncertainty of what restrictions will be continuing, and along with the vaccine rollout, May 27, 2021 commencement will once again be a virtual event. There'll be an official announcement coming from President Mabry shortly, but I want to assure you that the commencement committee is meeting on a regular basis to discuss ways to celebrate our graduates, including commemorative items and graduation photos. Beth Noel and her marketing team will once again produce the virtual ceremony. Please watch for a newscaster announcement asking the college community for nominations of student speakers for the class of 2021. Lowell Telecommunication will once again stream the video on graduation day, May 27th, and replay in the weeks following the ceremony. The commencement website is updated to communicate this to our graduates, and Audrey Nahabedian enrollment team will be updating the grad application to also reflect these changes. We all agree that MCC's graduation is a special event. We will do our best to celebrate in 2021 and look forward to an in-person event on May 26th, 2022. Thank you.
Thanks, Colleen. Now, Frank, I'm gonna ask to unmute you. You can go ahead and give us the federal funding update.
Well, thank you and welcome everyone today. And I'm going to briefly speak of what transpired in 2020, known as the CARES Act, and obviously what we've done, as well as new money, which we are expecting in February, referred to as HERF. The CARES Act was enacted early in 2020, March, after the pandemic, and the college dispersed over calendar 2020 over $2 million to our students. This helped them for emergency support when they obviously moved from on campus to remote learning. And that was approximately 1.8 million. There was funding from the Anna Peasy portion of the CARES Act, as well as the Massachusetts GEAR Fund. So that was approximately $2 million, $2.1 million. On the institutional side, a significant investment in online course development by our faculty, and obviously great work for our students, and certainly the online learning, and a great deal of technology tools and equipment, from Zoom lenses to laptops to Chromebooks. And those funds were part of the CARES Act, as well as the Massachusetts GEAR funding, which is the state component of that, for $459,000. So over the last 9 months, 10 months, that funding of $4.3 million helped the college considerably, really to help our students, our online learning, as well as some of the technology equipment associated with that. If we could turn now to the HEF fund slide, please. Okay. We're looking at approximately $7.8 million that we expect to receive in February. Again, the student portion will be $1.8 million, and that's going to flow through fiscal 21 as well as fiscal 22, but it requires to be spent in calendar 2021, but it'll bridge both fiscal years. On the institutional side, certainly there was considerable increase in that, approximately $5.9 million. And we are developing the budget at this point in time for that spend, and certainly technology, online course development, professional development, many of the tools that we need for our virtual, our hybrid environment, our classroom equipment. So those numbers are being developed at this point in time, but that'll certainly make a considerable investment in our technology for our students and certainly the college. We're grateful, obviously, to see that funding, and certainly that's being invested for our students and their success, and appreciate everyone's support, help, and cooperation in making that happen, and certainly for student success. Thank you. And any questions, please put into the chat.
Thanks, Frank.
Thank
Next,
you.
Mary Emmerich from HR is going to give an update on the presidential search process.
Thank you, Beth. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to share an update regarding the presidential search process. The presidential search process is well underway and on schedule. In December, the presidential position description and announcement was placed in major national publications serving the higher education marketplace as well as targeted diversity publications to attract and sufficiently identify a large and diverse pool of qualified applicants. The full presidential profile is located on the Presidential Search website. You may visit this site for information about the search firm, search committee, and also to submit feedback. While the search firm is assisting the college with the presidential search process, including development of this presidential profile, conducting outreach efforts to source diverse candidates, and responding to candidate inquiries, it is the role and responsibility of the search committee to screen, interview, and recommend candidates for presidency. The Presidential Search Committee is delegated to oversee the presidential search process. The committee will evaluate candidate applications that meet the minimum qualifications set forth in the position description and select candidates for interviews. This week, members of the Presidential Search Committee attended implicit bias training delivered by Reggie Nichols, who serves as the college's affirmative action officer. Thank you, Reggie, for sharing your insights during this training. The key topics covered included understanding best practices for conducting a fair and equitable search and making selection decisions that minimize biases. The search firm will be presenting potential candidates on paper to the search committee next week on February 4th. This meeting will provide the committee with the opportunity to determine if the search firm is on the right track or if additional outreach and networking is needed to source candidates. The next key milestones of the presidential search will begin in early March, when the committee will discuss and select a group of semifinalist candidates to be confidentially interviewed. The interviews with the semifinalists will be conducted beginning on March 10th. Ultimately, the search committee will interview candidates for the presidency and recommend to the Board of Trustees no less than 3 and no more than 5 qualified candidates as finalists. Following the finalist interviews, the Board of Trustees will vote to recommend to the Board of Higher Education the appointment of a president for approval. Interviews with finalists are projected to be scheduled in late March or early April, during which the candidates will meet with key stakeholders of MCC and visit the campuses. It is anticipated that the successful presidential finalist will begin onboarding in the late spring or summer in preparation for the upcoming academic year. Thank you, and I'll turn it back to Beth.
Thank you, Mary. Now, I believe President Mabry and Provost Sisson will speak about the spring semester.
There we go. Okay. All right. A couple of points I want to make just on, some of the presentations that have been made is Colleen talked about, unfortunately, we have to do a virtual commencement again, but we're again trying to find new ways to make this special for our students so that they can have commencement photographs, so they will get a hat and a tassel. So again, trying everything we can to try make this special for our graduates. With the federal funding that Frank Nocella talked about, the national lobbying groups for community colleges did a fantastic job this time, and some small changes in the language in these bills really helped us. So one of the key things was just by dispersing funds by head count rather than FTE, that made a difference of about $25 million for the community colleges in the United States. And so that's one of the reasons we're seeing additional funding. Also, we see that the regulations are not as difficult as they were the last time around. This means we'll be able to use more money to directly help our students and really do more for them. And that's really the goal. So those things have been moving along and are important. Moving into the spring semester, as we all know, it has been a difficult time for our students. The recession that followed the pandemic has really hurt our low-income communities, disproportionately impacted our students of color, and this has been really difficult on our student population. We see students really struggling to pay their bills from the fall semester, come into the spring, and it just is, for some of them, really quite a few of them, really just impossible to continue their education. This is the really hard story that we're dealing with. Is these students are just having a difficult time, meeting their basic needs, let alone coming to school. So, we're doing everything we can. We've changed a lot of the, rules and regulations, everything we can do to help our students and to aid them more financially. So I really applaud everybody for being creative and finding solutions and ways we can get these students back on campus so they can continue, their academic journey with us. That's why the whole vaccination program, we keep watching that carefully. Because until we get that vaccination and we get that really herd immunity across a large number, we're not going to see the economy come back. Our students are really going to continue to struggle financially. So I'm hoping that we see the rollout of the vaccines in Massachusetts pick up steam, and that we'll soon see that coming out. I know all of us are looking forward to that. It will really help all of us rest easier at night and really help keep our families safe. So we are looking forward to that and trying to participate in any way we can to really help out with the vaccination plan. So I think that, we'll keep working with our communities, and hopefully as the vaccines become more available, we will be able to do more on that front. So coming into the spring, what does that look like? Phil will talk more in detail. Our enrollment is down significantly, and it's in spite of the heroic efforts by everybody in enrollment and admissions, financial aid, student accounts, and faculty members who've been, talking to their own students. So it's really swimming against a tsunami at this point, and we recognize that. But again, we will get through this. We will come out the other side, and we're already starting to talk about and plan for how we will rebuild ourselves and how we will bring our students back once that's possible. So I'm going to ask Provost Sisson now to join me and really give a little more detail about the spring semester. Phil?
Sure. Thanks, Jim. Excuse me, everybody. Nice to see everyone virtually. Hope the first couple of days of your semester have gone smoothly. I know it has been an incredibly busy one. I would honestly say that this has been the most brutal beginning to a semester that I've had in the 10 years that I've been here. And many of you know exactly what we're talking about. This has been a really challenging beginning for a number of reasons. And I have some thank yous. First, I want to thank the staff and the deans who are working with me every day. We are currently in the process of working with all of you on potentially 3 semesters simultaneously, rounding out what we do with Mini-Mestry 2, and looking at the summer session and trying to get a jump on our fall schedule, thanks to an agreement that we have with our MCCC partners. So I'm very grateful, and will remind faculty that we are really looking to have your faculty preference forms earlier than is outlined in our contract through a local agreement that we signed. So by mid-February, we'll be happy to have those from you. Our intent is to then be building the fall schedule before the end of February so that we can open it up early March. We don't want to be in a situation for fall of 21 to be behind the 8 ball in terms of getting our course forms and our schedule out, not only to our current students, to prospective students. There's a tremendous amount of competition out there. And so we want to make sure that we've aligned that with when other folks, including the university, rolls out its fall semester. And so therefore, we thank you for your attention over the next couple of weeks to submitting those faculty preference forms to your dean. So thanks in advance for that. And thank you to our colleagues in Macer, our MCCC colleagues in Macer, who helped make that agreement possible. I think this is an urgent opportunity for us to be able to be on top of the fall semester as much as we possibly can. For spring, we know that you have been working incredibly diligently. If you're a faculty member, many of you, there are 77 new courses that have been developed over the course of time to be prepared for spring. So I know a number of you have been engaged in course development. In fact, for many of you, you haven't stopped course development from last March. So you have been doing amazing, heroic work in moving our face-to-face courses to an online environment. And my hat's off to you, to your creativity and your work ethic. It has just been amazing what the college has done in terms of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of courses. But we have some new course development that is happening this spring. I also know many of you have made tremendous adjustments as you learn more about the online environment and how our students are responding to it. So I thank you for your work, the constant tweaking, the constant effort to make our synchronous and asynchronous classes some of the best classes we could possibly provide. And the quality is really in your hands, and you've done a remarkable job with that. I continue to thank Roxanne and Daniela for their support of our faculty who are in the process of course development and mentoring and assisting faculty as they continue along this journey to give the best quality online education we possibly can. And I also want to thank, in my own mind, the heroic faculty who are in our lab sciences and in our health fields who are coming in and really doing hybrid or face-to-face work with our students. And they started that on Tuesday, and they will continue. And that means that those folks are fully masked, fully gowned, screened, and that's only because we've had a very, very active and highly successful emergency management team that has collaboratively worked along the college to create the safest environment we possibly can for our faculty and for our students. So I thank you for those of you who are coming in and teaching classes, whether you're in Henderson Hall or whether you're up in Talbot or wherever you may be, and you know who you are. We thank you because you have laid the groundwork for us to be able to reintroduce face-to-face classes at the college, which will be incredibly important. One of what the president has said around our students and their financial situation is certainly part of our enrollment challenge for this spring. I really believe that we as an institution will do a remarkable job of rebuilding that enrollment. We have students that have stopped out because they cannot financially afford to continue with us. And I want to thank the heroic efforts from finance and Frank and the president and those of us who have really been talking about how do we really allow a manageable amount of debt burden for students to be able to continue their education who want to. And so we're watching that very closely. I would say that what's really amazing about the work that we've done is the fact that I think we've worked better together than ever on all of this. You know, our MCCC partners, individual faculty. I met with the chairs and coordinators from all our academic programs and departments yesterday who have been exceptional leaders in assisting with the schedule. We know we have challenges ahead in terms of timing to get schedules done. We're asking you to look at summer and relook at summer and then look again at fall and work with your academic departments in this first month right away to have collegial conversations about assignments for the fall. You know, as I said to the chairs and coordinators, what's really remarkable about the work here at Middlesex that doesn't happen at a lot of other community colleges is the departments sit down and have really good conversations about who's going to cover what course, who's going to cover the online version, who's going to do face-to-face, who's going to do hybrid. I mean, we work this out in a very collegial and appropriate manner, and we're very grateful for that. And the deans are there to shepherd and guide that process as we develop the fall schedule. Again, our effort is to put as many names on courses as we possibly can when we roll out that schedule for the fall. And we're all very hopeful that we will get to a point where we can have an increased number of face-to-face classes. Second thing that we've learned from our students, and we hear it every day, and you will hear it, is the fact that they yearn to come back to be on campus. They want the real college experience. They want to be live in a classroom with you. and they want to be doing as much as they can to be part of a community, which is what we do so well at the college and what all of our faculty and staff create. So we have to be mindful of that as we move into the next couple of semesters. But spring, importantly, is that I've told the deans, and they've probably told you, that thanks to our facilities folks and the EMT group, the emergency management team, we've scouted out a couple of larger spaces that can accommodate smaller classes. And we would offer the opportunity to anyone who is outside of a hands-on experience, in other words, outside of health and science, who may be interested in offering some aspect of their class in face-to-face, or to add something to Minimester 2 that would be face-to-face, that begins on March 29th. We're watching the science, we're watching the information very carefully, but we've prepared some larger spaces that would allow faculty to use those spaces, cafeterias in both campuses, in the assembly room, and that we've talked about entrance and exit. We've talked about holding spaces for students so they do not congregate. We've talked about a schedule that would allow students and require students to come in only minutes before their class begins and then exit as soon as their class is over. But we do know that there are many faculty who have asked for this kind of accommodation, and we want you to know that that's an individual accommodation that we want to make for you as we move into March. We have to watch the cases and the spikes very carefully. Obviously, we've got to watch the variant strains, et cetera. But I think if we can plan and be more planful and intentional about our face-to-face opportunities, the next real face-to-face opportunity we see for a very limited number of classes would be at the end of March, March 29th for Minimester 2. To the faculty who are teaching this spring semester, and to the whole college, you need to know that we had the most brutal cancellation session we've probably ever had. It was 3.5 hours long for final cancellations. We have been incredibly intensely watching full-time faculty workload to protect those faculty, and we've actually wanted to make sure that we ran the courses that we knew students needed to have. So we have actually run a very, very tight schedule for the spring, the tightest schedule the college has probably ever had, with good fill rates in most of those classes. And some faculty have been in a situation where they've had classes canceled and they've had been reassigned, talked about reassigned time. So they'll be working with their deans to do work of the college and work of their departments to really advance our equity agenda, our OER agenda, and really provide some extraordinary professional development opportunities to our faculty. So the best thing when one can do is, when you have a bad situation, is to make the best of it. And that's really our intent, is to get some other work done that really needs to be done. And the faculty expertise that can be brought to that work will be really important. But I know there's a lot of anxiety out there, and I know that people have been very concerned. We have had absolutely no cuts to any faculty positions as we've advanced here at the college, and that's certainly the case for spring. So those reassigned times have been incredibly important, and we're going to be very judicious and be supportive of those faculty who are in that situation as much as we can to really accomplish the work of the college. I think the only other thing that I would like to say about spring is I am incredibly grateful to all of you for your flexibility, both from a policy and a procedural perspective. We know that this last week has been incredibly important for us to be able to add students and for students to have some flexibility. And so we appreciate that you've been taking new students into your class in your first week, and you need to be cognizant of that. That is happening because our add date has been extended. It is that has really helped us allow the enrollment folks to do the outreach they need to do to be able to gather as many of our students back and get them engaged with the college this spring successfully, either if they're late in that decision or if they are unsure about whether or not they would be able to come back. This has given them the maximum amount of time to gather up their finances and their plans to be able to accomplish that. So I'm very grateful, as always, for your flexibility about those ads. The registrar's office and any of us are here to be able to assist you in any questions you may have about students that are added, because we really appreciate that additional flexibility. We are now a little closer to goal, closer to 90% of what we wanted to accomplish in terms of credits. We are adding a lot of dual enrollment students as we continue with our concurrent enrollment program. So those are being entered. So we're about 6,000 credits down from where we need to be, but we've been moving and inching up every day. And I want to thank the enrollment staff and the student affairs staff who have done outreach to do just remarkable work, to have important conversations with students as they make decisions about whether they're going to come this semester or whether they're going to stop out. And we're going to stay in contact with those students. Those are our students. They started degree programs with us, and they will continue to be connected with the college, and we will be welcoming them back when they are ready, whether that's summer, whether that's mini master 2 or summer or fall. Those students will continue to be our students, and we'll rebuild the curriculum, and we will rebuild the schedule, and we will rebuild the enrollment that we need to be successful at college. So thank you all for your continued flexibility in working with our students as we begin this.
So Phil, I want to thank you for your leadership with both academic and student affairs and all you've done to help keep us on track, working as a real key team member with all the deans and the department chairs and the faculty members that you're working with. So I really appreciate all you've done there. As Phil pointed out, it's it's still a ways to go, but we're still picking up enrollment. We're still working on this, and we hope to close that gap over time here. Looking ahead to summer and fall. Before the meeting, I was joking, I've got my crystal ball out here because that's about what it takes these days. It's really hard to figure out exactly what the summer and fall is going to look like at this point. It's going to depend really on the vaccination rollout and how that goes. We'll also wait to see guidance from the state. And then all of that leads us to what we've always used as our key criteria. What can we do safely, right? So we will make sure that if we're going to go about opening our doors more, we will do it in a safe way. We will also keep you as fully informed as we can. We will solicit your feedback. We'll engage you on these issues. I just want to reassure you that as you've seen throughout this, except for the very sudden change last March, nothing happens suddenly. We're being very thoughtful and really trying to communicate and do this clearly. We know that people need some advance warning and need some planning and need time to arrange their lives if we're going to be back on campus. So we will be cognizant of that because you are the critical professionals at the college. And when we do get into that phase, we want to make sure this will work for you. Just as we have tried really hard to make remote work for everybody and to be flexible, be thoughtful, be sensitive to particular situations, we will continue to do that and work with you as we work through this changing situation. Again, a lot of it's going to depend on things way outside our boundaries, and it's going to be about the vaccination rollout, what guidance the state gives to higher ed, and what we are able to do. I think you probably understand that we're really about the same place as all the other community colleges in the state. Everybody else has seen their enrollment decline significantly, both in the fall and more this spring. Everybody's struggling. All the other presidents are struggling with what to do for summer and fall. So, it is not easy at any level here to really predict exactly what's going to happen and when it's going to happen. All I can say is we'll keep you fully informed. We'll keep having these town halls. We'll keep communicating with you as much as possible. So before I go into the last phase, I just want to thank Trustee Dr. Howard, Dr. Cheryl Howard, for attending today. She's always engaged, always thoughtful, and her guidance that she has from her experience in senior leadership and higher education has always been useful. So Dr. Howard, thank you for attending today. So to move on through this, I just wanted to say, these are my top reasons for hope and optimism. I really think you could come up with your own list that really could be quite extensive. Some of the things haven't changed, and that's for the better. Our students still believe that higher education is a path to a better life, and they still believe that Middlesex Community College provides great value, great teaching, and great support for them. They know that, and they see it every day because of the work that you do. We are still open. We are still educating thousands of students every day. We are keeping these students on a track to a better life. And that's something that we will do every day. Our communities still look to us, and they believe that we can help get this vaccine out. They think we can be a major player with testing sometimes. And they really know that we are going to be critical to getting the economy back on track and getting it back on track with highly trained, highly skilled students who will be the core of the workforce in the future. And one of the things that has never changed here is that we have a great group of dedicated professionals who are doing all they can to support student success. I've seen that you have never wavered in that, whether you're tired, whether you're tired of online education, whether you miss your students, you have never wavered. You've always given it your all, and I'm very proud of the institution here. Some things, however, have changed. We actually got more funding from the state this year than we got last year. That was a major advocacy effort that helped us out there. One of the key pieces of this is a new success fund. And this is an additional stream of money just for community colleges. And the legislature gave us $7 million this year. That's for all 15 community colleges. We'll see a little bit more than $500,000 here. And we are using that to really provide more support for our students, particularly our low income and students of color. And we'll be using it to really help close the equity gap here at the college. Provost Sisson and Assistant VP Pam Flaherty are going to be on the state board for that to help shape this, and all the colleges are participating. We're going to ask for $14 million next year. This is a stream of funding we're going to try and build over time for the community colleges in this state. Also, as I mentioned earlier, the most recent stimulus bill had language that really favored the community colleges much more than the first bill. And so again, that's our national advocacy groups really helping out and really working with our legislators on this to get us more funding where it's most needed. Also, I'm optimistic because we have a new administration in Washington, and this administration believes in facts, believes in science, believes that honesty matters, believes in democracy, believes that Black Lives Matter, and believes that the federal government has an incredibly important role to help mitigate this pandemic and help people survive. And this is a pandemic that's killed more than 400,000 people. And so this government sees a role to play in helping us come through that. And soon we'll have a new Secretary of Education who actually supports public education and who knows public education because he was educated in public schools and he came up through the ranks to senior leadership in Connecticut. So this is somebody who knows public education inside and out. So lots of things that we can be optimistic for as we move forward. We will make it through this trying time. And because we are committed to our mission and to our students, and we will continue to work with unity and purpose, creativity, innovation, we'll keep this college going strong and we'll stay on the right track. So I want to thank you all for attending today, and we would be happy to answer any of your questions.
Thank you, President Mabry. We're actually going to first start with a question about vaccinations. So Pat, if you wouldn't mind taking this question.
Yep, sure.
This staff person lives in New Hampshire. will they be able to get vaccinated through their affiliation with the college, or is it driven by which state that you live in?
There's a number of factors that play into the background of that, Beth. And without knowing the individual, it's impossible to answer. But there's certain phases that reflect certain age groups. Some people that have some pre-existing conditions can move up that line faster. But in terms of what we're looking at for the guidelines that are being provided here for higher ed, what we're being told at this point, which I do believe is going to continue to change, is that April is when we would be able to make it available to our population as employees or students and staff and faculty on campus. We're chipping away at that as best as we can in between now and then to get specific cohorts from different programs through. But they may be getting rollouts based on their community, based on their age, or if there's any other determinant factors. People are getting notifications individually mailed to their houses if they fall within certain demographics. So what we can do is apply what we're able to do for our population, for folks that are as our employees or students, and we'd certainly make that available regardless of where they're living. But in the meantime, there could be other opportunities that really, I'm got my fingers crossed here that we're going to be able to get access in between now and April too for different chunks of our population.
Thank you very much, Pat. The next two questions are for Frank. Frank, first, folks are wondering if the slides that you shared will be made available.
Absolutely. They certainly can be made available.
Great. And the next question is, will CARES money be earmarked for continuing to provide laptops, cameras, and hotspots as part of that loaner program?
The CARES money has been fully spent, but that certainly is part of the HERF money in 2021. Certainly money will be provided for those purposes.
We're still just waiting on the final regulations on the HERF 2. So while we haven't started yet, I think there's no doubt we'll be able to do more with that shortly.
Great, thank you. Mary, I'm going to unmute your mic. We have a couple thoughts about the presidential search. First, would it be possible to send a newscaster out that has a direct link to the presidential search website?
Yes, yes, definitely. That was sent in newscaster when the site was first launched in late November, but we can definitely put just a refresh reminder. It is a little easier now to search for, with the key search terms of presidential search or president. I know before it was a little buried, so I will send out a newscaster with that direct link.
Great. And are you able to give any information about how many applicants have been generated so far?
I don't have that information yet. We'll know, have much greater detail following that presentation by the search firm next week on Thursday. I think it's February the 4th. So it's at that time that we'll see access to the applicant pool, but also some of the candidates that they've done some preliminary phone screening and conversation with in their networking and outreach efforts.
Great, thank you. Another question that we have here is related to mini-masters. So Phil, I think that this is probably a you question. Are we going to continue to add mini-master 2 courses, and at what rate?
Thanks, Beth. I just couldn't unmute for a minute there. It's a great question. And actually what we're trying to do in many cases, and we've done this already, and we've used this technique multiple times in the last couple of semesters as we've dealt with this, is as we've had to cancel some courses for the beginning of the regular semester, the 16-week semester, what we've tried to do is then shift some of those courses that we thought might be attractive to students who may start with us late, or maybe new students, to the March mini-master. So we continue, and we have for multiple semesters now, continued to grow the second mini-master offerings as a response to what we've seen from the beginning of the semester and also looking at the demand in the past in terms of new students. So that will continue. Will continue over the entire course of the next few months as we get closer to March. My guess is that we don't add too many of those sections unless there's really high demand. So oftentimes we add some last minute sections based on those demands. We work very closely with our advising staff to be able to make sure, and the folks who are seeing students coming through from multiple measures or testing, so that we can identify what exactly we need. I mean, our goal is to try and round out the semester as much as we can. We have a lot of students that their financial situation and the pandemic situation, it might be much different by the time they get to the end of March. And so therefore, we certainly want to welcome those students. The intent of the mini-masters was to always allow for students to be able to access the institution without having to wait another 8 or 10 weeks. And so the possibility is that a student now can start as a new student on March 29th, and they can start oftentimes with a couple of classes. So that's our intent, is to create as robust a mini-master semester as we possibly can. And we've learned that that's what students want. That demand has grown. We've seen the mini-masters grow. And so we're continuing to respond to that as students have requested it. I can't give you an exact idea of at what pace. Certainly what we consider all the time is how does that impact the fall semester? How will that impact whatever summer offerings we have? We do not want to dilute the schedule, but at the same time, we want to be as responsive as we possibly can. And again, it's a juggling act during the pandemic and during everything we've been experiencing for the last few semesters. So the deans, the department chairs, everyone's watching that very closely. But our intent is to offer as many courses as we can in that second mini-mester that may be able to be responsive to student need. And we'll see exactly what happens, and we're monitoring that very closely.
Great, thank you, Phil. So another question that we have in the queue is related to health and safety, and it is about ventilation. How will the college be handling ventilation in on-campus classes?
Patrick, you want to take a shot at that?
Sure, I can grab at least a portion of that for right now. Thank you for asking that. I don't know if the person who asked it saw or not, but back in the fall, either September, October, I think it was, we shipped around a college-wide review because a number of you had had inquiries over the summer about air quality. So Frank Nacella and the facilities team commissioned an evaluation of all of our properties that were delivered to the college back in the fall. It was a company out of Florida came and did. They evaluated our indoor quality, temperatures, relative humidity, a whole bunch of other factors that they collected during 3 visits with every one of our buildings, because we wanted to make sure that we had proper ventilation and airflow that when this was being raised as a concern for, especially for K through 12 when the schools were reopening. Based upon the tests that they conducted, NB5 concluded that our overall air quality in all of our buildings was evaluated as good. There was very minor suggestions for some modifications in one building, but no further action was required. I know that is something that we're all continuing to watch as especially when K through 12 are starting their return to some of their facilities. But I can tell you that airflow and ventilation have also been high on the list of safety priorities for the Cowan Center renovations that have been underway now or started this past month. So we did try to get on top of that and get in front of it before we even returned for the fall semester. And I deferred to Frank, but I'm sure we could have another round of these done over the course of this semester and this summer, just to make sure that we're still at those maintained and acceptable levels.
Thank you, Pat. Those are all of the questions that we had in the queue. Does anyone else have any questions that they would like the president or college leadership to answer? You can go ahead and type those in the chat now.
We'll hang on just a minute, see if anybody's got more questions. I suspect everybody's quite busy and has plenty of other work to keep them busy this afternoon. can see Chris laughing down there a little bit, and a few others. So it is a busy time of the semester. I really do appreciate everybody that's taken time out to join us today. It's really great when everybody is, as fully informed as possible, that you understand, how we're approaching this and what we're thinking about, and, how we can make this a safe semester for all our faculty, staff, and students. Anything else, Beth, coming up there?
No, nothing else has come in, President Mabry.
Okay, all right. Well, once again, just,
Actually, you have
here
one.
we go. All right,
All right.
we're ready.
Okay, let's see here. Is the RSA token still going to be used for the entire spring semester? And I think that that is a question for Joe. I don't know if he is on here.
Right, I have not seen Joe. I'm not sure Ellen Ricker was on. I'm not sure if she would know. I think they're upgrading the RSA tokens. I believe what Joe said was that as your token expires, those will be upgraded. So in other words, they're tracking each individual one, and you should get notification when that's going to change. I believe I'm correct on that, but we'll see.
Okay, thank you. Phil, I have another question for you. There are no faculty cuts for spring, but will there be professional staff cuts?
The answer is I have no prediction of where we will be in terms of college enrollment. I have not heard anything thus far about any other cuts. I think we were very successful at making those first round of cuts. Frank may be able to speak in more detail about that, but there was a major presentation made to the Board of Trustees. And I think that we have really identified where our issues are with FY21. And I think we have some challenges for FY22, but I'm not the central figure in all of that. But I would certainly say that I have heard of no intention of any professional staff cuts. I did when I was simply referring to faculty concerns based on their anxiety, based on the fact that we had a rough cancellation session, that some faculty had some of their courses canceled that were part of their full-time faculty load, which was why I was focusing on that piece. But that was simply just to really quell some of the concerns that I have heard amongst faculty to get that word out that that because we did not have workload this spring does not necessarily mean we will not have workload for those folks in the future. And that is certainly not the case. There's no discussion of that. I wanted to make sure that that anxiety level was reduced. I have heard no of conversations around professional staff. We've made significant cuts at the college in terms of personnel, but we are really focused on what we need to do to promote student success and continue to serve students effectively. And so I have not heard of any. I can't speak to that other than that.
Okay, Frank, did you have anything to add? Okay, so I do have an update on that RSA token question. Our cybersecurity specialist, Davis, is on the call. I unmuted you, Davis. Do you just want to give that answer back out about the RSA token?
Yes, I just want to follow through with what President Mabry said. We are actually phasing out the RSA token and replacing it with Duo for a couple of reasons. Duo is a little bit much more easier to use, and the RSA tokens are a little bit more expensive. And we thought that we should just have one process or token. And so yes, we're not going to renew the RSA token as they expire.
Great, thank you, Davis. Okay, and then we have another question that has come in. President Mabry, this is a question for you. And it has come to the attention of the external community and the MCC community about Facebook posts from one of our Board of Trustee members that show a pattern of bias that do not reflect our communicated value of equity. What is your position on these statements, and how can we champion equity when the top levels of our institution have these thoughts?
Okay, so I think this has been communicated widely in the press and in the Lowell community. And we also have had the trustee come and apologize to the Board of Trustees for those comments. I think also that myself and the rest of my administration here at the college have made our position very clear. I communicated on January 6th my position about that insurrection at the Capitol building, and that we have supported the equity agenda from the top to the bottom of this institution. We will continue to do that. We will support our Leading for Change group, which I'm going to meet with tomorrow. And we are going to continue the equity dialogue at this college. So some of these things that happen outside of our control are unfortunate, but we will move forward. And I think that this administration, from myself, from Phil, and many others have been very clear where we stand on the equity agenda. We will continue to support the equity activities, the discussions, the learning, the growth at this institution. And that's critical for us. We all know that that's important, and we will move down that path with determination and with purpose.
Thank you, President Mabry. This is one last call. We can still answer a couple more questions. So if anyone else has something they would like asked, just type it into the chat.
Quick, before Jonathan gets any sleepier down there. So,
Oh,
yeah.
Sure. So I do have a request, Provost
Sure.
Sexton, for you to respond to that same question.
Sure. You want to ask the question again?
Yes, I can.
I'm happy to respond to it, but
It's come to the attention of our external community and the MCC community about the Facebook posts of one of our Board of Trustee members shows a pattern of bias that does not reflect our communicated value of equity. What is your position on these statements, and how can we champion equity when the top levels of our institution have these thoughts?
I honestly think it's a great question. I think the president has answered the question. I think the chairman of the board addressed it at the Board of Trustee meeting. The trustee addressed it at the Board of Trustee meeting. I think I've had conversations within Leading for Change about advocacy and the role that faculty and staff play in that. I think I've been very clear about the chain of command, and I think it's really important for people to be cognizant of that. My personal opinion is I think that comments that identify bias in social media posts are really dangerous for anyone who has any kind of public persona or public presence in social media. And I think that that is something that we all have to be very, very cautious about. I think everyone at the institution, I hope, knows where I stand on the equity agenda and the work that we've done here for almost a decade, and that we will continue to do. And what I would say is that no one individual, whether they be a trustee or someone who is employed at the college, represents who we are as a community. And I think that there are avenues to raise your concerns. I think the president will be addressing that with the Leading for Change folks who had a very robust discussion about this. I think I was clear about who actually identifies the Board of Trustees, who nominates those people, who places them on our board. The president and all of us actually work for the Board of Trustees. We work for the president, but it doesn't work the other way around. And so therefore, concern that needs to be raised and vocalized. I would encourage people to take action from their own individual perspective, as I have done before. I think that this issue has been raised with the highest levels of administration at the college. It's been discussed with the chairman of the board. It's been discussed at the Board of Trustee meeting. And I think that anyone else wants to take additional action should feel free to do so.
Thank you, Phil. Any final questions? I don't see anything coming in.
Okay, well, thanks, Beth, and thanks for everybody who participated today. I really appreciate my team giving all of these updates and really helping to keep the college fully informed. So again, one last thank you. Have a great semester. We'll be together soon.
And if you just want to hang around for a couple seconds, you can check out our slide on Black History Month and the trivia night for faculty and staff.